All right, so welcome to the Muscles Made with Marco podcast. Today we have Fitness by Mamoun as our guest on the show. So he's at the beach, I guess.
I wish. I wish. I wish.
So Mamoun, you've been on the podcast before. You're no stranger. Um, don't know if you want to introduce yourself again. Or
Sure. Well, thank you first of all for the time again.
thanks for joining.
How do I introduce myself? I mean, I'm a sports lover, first of all. I think it all started just like that, me loving sports, and then I got a lot more serious about it as time went by. Now I do a lot of training, lifting weights. I'm currently prepping for my third marathon. And I've also developed a business, an online fitness coaching business, I guess, 3 years ago. So I've been doing that for a few years. Yeah.
Nice. Perfect. So, just to go into the first topic today, we're going to be discussing building muscle. So, this is targeted at someone who is skinny or skinny fat and is looking to build muscle, put on as much muscle as possible.
Yeah.
So, to do their first bulk, let's say. And how would you go about it?
That's a very interesting topic. I think there are a few ways to go about it, but it all depends on the person that is in question. So I think there are two types of skinny fat profiles. The first type is someone who isn't extremely out of shape, but they're also not in good shape, like let's say let's take a profile of a guy who's in his 20s, who's 1 meter 80, and he weighs like 75 kgs. So in terms of his weight, like his weight to height ratio, there isn't a big discrepancy between the two. But he weighs 75 to 80 kgs, but he doesn't look good. Like he's very like skinny, he's weak, and his body fat percentage is high. So this kind of profile is one that we can call skinny fat. But there's also a different kind of profile that is skinny fat, which is a guy who is, let's say, the same kind of profile, like mid 20s or something, 1 meter 80, but he's like 100 kgs, and he's also super weak and he doesn't have a lot of muscle. So these are two different kind of profiles, and I think each one can be approached a bit differently. So let's go with the first example. Let's say a guy who's 1 meter 80, weighs 75 kgs, 75 to 80 kgs. He does a little bit of sports here and there, but he's very skinny in terms of how much muscle he has. And his body fat percentage is high. So he's like between 20 and 25% body fat. This specific profile, I think the best way to go about it is to do what is called a recomposition phase. So it's just a process where you basically try to, over a period of 4 to 6 months, you try to diet slightly. So be on a like caloric maintenance diet or on a slight deficit. And the objective of this is to lose a little bit of fat, but at the same time, as you are dieting slightly, you're still lifting weights, you're still training super intensely and still trying to build muscle. And because this person is generally a beginner in the gym, they still have the potential to build muscle while losing fat at the same time. So this is the first kind of example. And generally how this would look, say if the guy is 80 kgs, he would probably, after 4 to 6 months, weigh 73 to 75 kgs, so he would only lose 5 to 7 kgs, but he would look so much stronger, he would be a lot fitter, and he would just look more athletic. So we would kind of combat the skinny fat problem in this way for this specific profile. For profile number two, a guy who was 1 meter 80, uh, but weighs 100 kgs and he is not strong and doesn't have a lot of muscle. For this guy, it would be more appropriate, in my opinion and in my experience, it would be more appropriate to do like a proper fat loss phase. So you would diet a lot more intensely. Say their caloric maintenance would be 2,500 calories. You would put them on a diet that is a bit more restrictive in terms of calories. So you would reduce their calories to 1,800 or 2,000 calories per day. But you would also incorporate a very good training program. You would have them lifting weights 3 to 4 times a week, trying to get as strong as they can possibly get. So for this specific profile, after 6 months, they would lose 20 kgs, for example, or they would lose 15 to 20 kgs after 6 months. And the objective, or I guess the final result, is going to be similar to the result of the guy of profile number one. But the only difference is that profile number two is going to lose a lot more weight in the time frame. So in a matter of 6 months, profile number one only lost 5 kgs. Maybe he put on a good amount of muscle as well. Whereas profile number two, he lost 20 kgs and he also put on a little bit of muscle. So for me, these are the two different kind of profiles, and this is how I would approach it.
That's wild though, losing 20 kgs in 6 months.
Yeah, it's totally doable, man. I mean, if you lose, if you weigh 100 kgs and you're 1 meter 80 and you don't train and you have a like a very I don't know what the word is, but like a lifestyle where you don't move a lot, then suddenly training 4 times a week, eating properly, doing a significant amount of steps every day, and just like being super active, you're going to be losing a lot of weight very quickly, you know? So it's not surprising that somebody can lose 15 to 20 kgs in a matter of 6 months if they're dieting properly, if they're training hard, if they're eating as they should be eating, if they're moving all of a sudden a lot.
I don't doubt the theory. I just wonder if in practice they're not going to be so hungry for 6 months, losing that much weight that over that long a period of time.
Well, I mean, they're not going to be eating 1,000 calories a day. They're still going to be eating 2,000 calories a day, you know? They're still going to be eating well. The weight loss is going to be from a combination of the diet plus all the training, plus maybe cardio, additional steps, all of these things.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But again, it's case by case. You know, like a person who's going to lose 20 kgs in 6 months, they're probably going to be like super, super good. The sun keeps coming out and the clouds keep hiding the sun for 2 seconds and like
It's complicated. Yeah.
um, the person who's going to lose 20 kgs in 6 months, they're probably going to be like on top of their game, super consistent with their diet, super consistent with their training, like really good. You know, like they would be 95% on top of everything, you know? A guy who's not this good, who like struggles at first, and this is the norm. Most people are going to struggle. They're going to make mistakes. They're going to have little moments where they don't follow their diet, where they skip workouts. This guy, he's probably going to lose more, around like 10 to 12 kgs in a matter of 6 months, which is also good, you know? So it's really case by case.
Okay. Okay. It's
Yeah.
just how's your experience with cutting been? How long do you make your cuts? How aggressive are they? How do you feel?
Me personally, or like people I've worked with?
Oh, you can do both. I was going to ask you just how you felt, but you can bring up some examples from your clients as well.
Yeah. Well, me personally, I mean, when I like the last cut I did, it lasted, I think, 14 to 16 weeks, so 3.5, 4 months. It
Okay.
was very good, very structured. Everything was tracked. I was very disciplined with my food, with my training, with everything. And the end result was very good. I went from 102 kgs to about 88 kgs. So I lost 12 to 14 kgs. I got a lot leaner. I didn't lose a lot of strength at the gym because I kept lifting well. I kept eating good as well. So yeah, that's my experience with it. But it really depends person to person, man. You know, I don't think there's like one rule that works for every. Obviously, the principles are like they are applied towards everyone in the same way. But there's always differences between each person, you know.
Okay. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah.
So you do quite a long cut, I would say, for yourself, even.
Well, 3 months is I think the norm, you know. Like 12 weeks is fair if you want to lose 10 kgs, you know.
It's a lot of weight to lose.
Yeah. Exactly. And you don't want to lose it in 6 weeks because then you're going to be risking losing muscle as well if you do it fast. So you want to do things a bit slower and you want to do things properly.
Yeah, for sure, for sure. Okay, so you're quite aggressive even on yourself, let's say with your targets, because I would do ideally something a little bit less, a bulk for 10, cut for 5, something like that.
Cut
Bulk
for 5
10
what? Weeks?
kilos.
Ah,
Bulk 10
well,
kilos, cut 5 kilos. Bulk 10 kilos, cut 5 kilos, something like that.
yeah. And how's that worked for you?
Well, it's how I would do it in theory. So, to be honest, I go pretty aggressively as well. I did like 2 year bulk, uh, 25 kilos, probably I took on.
Yeah.
And I did,
But then was that was that an intentional bulking phase or was it just from the period you started lifting to now?
that was an intentional bulking phase. I never wanted to cut during that time. I always wanted to bulk.
Yeah. But that was also during the beginning of like when you started lifting properly and taking things seriously, right?
Yeah, from the very beginning. I always, always bulked. I always bulked.
Yeah.
And
Okay.
then I did a cut where I lost probably even 10 kilos or something. But I was like, 107 fat. I
Yeah.
was 107 fat, and then I probably cut to like, I probably hit 97 at some point, and then now back to like 100, something like that. So I'd say it was quite aggressive, but just because my initial bulk was so aggressive, going forward, I would do less aggressive bulks and less aggressive cuts.
Mm.
So
Yeah.
more like what I was saying. Even 5 kilo gain, 2.5 kilo cut, 5 kilo gain, 2.5 kilo cut, something like that.
Yeah. Well, I think it all depends on each person's specific objectives, you know.
Sure.
It's really case by case and whatever works for each person. Let's go back to the topic of skinny fat. What's your take on it? Like, what do you think is the best way? Let's take let's create a scenario or a profile. Let's go with profile number one. Let's say a guy speaks to you. He says, Marco, I'm not very active. This is what I currently look like. He's 1 meter 80. He weighs 80 kgs, but he's not strong at the gym. He doesn't lift heavy. His body fat percentage is somewhere between 25 and 30%. Oh, maybe that's a bit too much. Let's say between 20 and 25%. And he wants to start lifting. How would you orient him? What do you think is the best way to approach it for this kind of profile?
So his objective is just to start lifting. I mean, usually I would put them into three different categories. So based on their objectives, in the sense of they want to cut, they want to lean bulk, or they want to bulk. So
Let's say his objective is he just wants to be fit, but he doesn't know how to start because generally these kind of scenarios, when you are skinny fat, you don't know what to do. You don't know if you should bulk to build muscle and then lose the fat. You don't know if you want to lose the fat and then look super skinny at 65 kgs or 70 kgs and then do a bulking phase. Generally, when you are skinny fat, and because of the lack of experience as well, you don't know what the best way to go about things is. So that's when you decide, okay, maybe it would be smart for me to hire a coach. So you go to someone, let's say I come to you and I say, okay, Marco, this is what I look like. My goal is to be a beast. I want to be fit. I want to lift weights. I want to feel good. But I know that goal is going to take me some time to get to. How should I start? For the first 6 months, what should I like? How should I go about things?
okay, so ideally, if I could have more information, I'd like to understand what the main struggles of this person are, because different people have different struggles. So, is your struggle to eat a lot of food? Is your struggle to not eat enough food? These two. these struggles would change how I would approach it. The other thing is, what's your definition of fit and what's your definition of being a beast? Because if I'm 180, 80 kgs, for me, I think if you want to be a beast, you'd be lean 90 kgs at least, I think. So
Hmm.
lean 90 kgs, let's say your struggle is to eat a lot of food and gain weight and muscle, then I would just go straight into a bulking phase for this particular individual because they're going to be maximizing their muscle gain because they have the newbie gains. They're probably going to be losing fat at the same time. So I would go for that. And since their struggle is to eat a lot of food, I wouldn't want to make them go in the other direction to then have to catch that back up later with a smaller stomach even than what they're starting off with because you have to kind of enlarge your stomach by eating more food to then eat even more food and gain more weight and gain more muscle. So, but if their struggle was if they had no problem eating a bunch of food and they know they're in it for the long term. They know they're going to do they're willing to do multiple bulking and cutting cycles and phases for the next few years, and they want to look aesthetic, lean, have a lean physique that most people want, have some abs showing a little bit, and they want that ASAP. Let's say they want the summer body in 3 months, 6 months. Then I would start more with a cut and or lean bulk, but I guess you could start with a cut to about 15%, 10% body fat, and then go back to do a lean bulk for life or a bulk if you're in a rush. See, if you had all the time in the world, you because the problem is that in real life people have sort of some constraints. You need to implement some habits in order to have them stick around for longer early.
Yep.
So that's why I would have a different approach. And the other thing is, okay, but what if for him being a beast is being at current weight or even being at a less weight? What if he wants to be 75 lean? What if that's his version of being a beast? You know, then there's no point bulking at all. Then you just kind of maintain your calories, make sure there's enough protein in there, make sure there's enough carbs to get you fueled for your workouts, and then the lifting will do the work of lowering your weight, and you'll just be extremely shredded. So I really think that it depends on what their goal is because you asked me what I think would be a beast for a male 180 80 kg. I'd say it's a bulk.
Mm. Okay. So it all depends on the specific objective of the person.
Yeah.
Uh, okay, let's say this guy's objective is to be just fit. Like he wants to be between 75 and 80 kgs. He wants to be lean and he wants to have a bit of muscle. He wants to be able to lift good weights and just feel good in his body because right now he struggles with confidence. He's not happy with his body composition. He feels like he's a bit fat in terms of how he looks, but also his arms are super skinny and he doesn't really have much muscle like on his body in general. So let's say he says, okay, this is what I want. I want to weigh around 75 kgs. I want to be lean. I want to have a little bit of muscle on me. Maybe it would be smart for us to lose some weight. How would you go about that?
So their weight is still 80
Yeah.
kgs. So again, depends. I would say that objective is achievable in 3 months, even. You know, it's achievable in 3 months. It's just a matter. I mean, depends on where they're starting at. If they're really sedentary, they don't do any weightlifting. I think, as you said, you get them weightlifting 3, 4 times a week to start off first month. Then they can increase that as well in the second or third month if they feel comfortable with it with the volume. Um, get them on a push pull leg type of program or do upper push pull, leg. So it'd be day one, two, three, four, five. I would do like push, pull, legs, upper body. So then you're hitting your upper body muscles twice a week, and then you're maximizing your muscle growth there, and then you're not excluding the legs by hitting them once a week still, because most people are more concerned about their top half than their bottom half. So you're not leaving anything behind there. And then on the upper body day, you're hitting both back and chest, which is, I guess, kind of intense, but you get through it. And you have it on a pretty flexible schedule because it's 4 days in which you can do Monday, Tuesday, rest Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, or you can do Monday, Wednesday, Friday, Saturday. It doesn't really matter. The idea as well of having the leg on the third day is good because if you do them Monday through Thursday, let's say, then at least you get a day's worth of recovery in between for your upper body muscles since you have that leg day on the third day. So I would do something like that. I would do it for, I think even 3 months would be fine. Your calories, I would have a look at what the diet's looking at the moment, and then make sure there's enough protein, but wouldn't do any major adjustments because it sounds like what they're usually maintaining with. If you add 4 workouts per week to that, then the body weight's going to go down by itself, and you're going to be losing a ton of fat, especially with the newbie gains. I think that's pretty simple objective.
Okay. Okay. Cool.
What do you
Okay.
think?
Um, what do I think of like the strategy?
How would you go about it?
Yeah. Uh, f- I think it would be best to do a recomposition phase. I think that's what works best for this kind of profile. And I also I disagree with the idea of 3 months. I think for this kind of profile, it will take at least 1 year, like a proper year of training, because 3 months is nothing. Uh, to build a decent amount of muscle, even as a beginner, you need some time, and to lose fat or to get leaner will also take a bit of time. So I think a good timeline to have in mind, or at least to set the expectations straight for the person that you're working with, is between 8 to 12 months. But for the first 6 months, I would do like a recomposition phase. I would try to lose as much fat as possible while also lifting heavy and eating well, like clean, and eating protein to try and build as much muscle as possible. And then after, obviously, you would adjust with time, but after 3 months, you would see what the result is. So let's say they start off at 80 kgs. After 3 months, the guy weighs 75 kgs. He's a lot leaner and he's getting stronger. He's getting fitter. Things are working super well. Then I would just keep going for another 3 months. Maybe adjust calories slightly if I see that they still want to lose a bit of weight, but the weight scale is being a bit more like he's stagnating a little bit. I would drop the calories a bit more and keep pushing the fat loss further. And then after 6 months, if he weighs, let's say, 72 kgs, he's a lot leaner now. He has a bit of muscle. Then we would start increasing calories to focus on building a bit of muscle, to focus on like moving on to a different part of the process. But for me, what works best in these kind of scenarios, what has worked for me when I started, because I was skinny fat when I started, what worked best when I worked with my first coach, who was a very good coach, was a recomposition phase. And then this is something that I've applied with so many guys that I've worked with. Recomp works super, super well. And in terms of timeline, 8 to 12 months is a fair timeline.
Sure,
Yeah.
sure. I mean, in the end, I was looking at the target as the weight on the scale. And as you
Yeah,
said,
that's okay.
it'd take about 3 months for you to go from 80 to 75 kilos pretty
Yeah.
easily. I was looking at that as the objective. Obviously, in 3 months, you're not going to be building the physique of your dream, right? But then again, that's why I said it depends on how willing you are to stick to it and how consistent you are going to be in the long term. If you tell me that you have 1 year, 2 years, then you can make some big changes there.
Yeah. Yep, yep. That's the thing, man. I think one of the biggest issues with the sport, or just getting fitter in general, is the people's expectations. Like even us, at least personally, when I first started, I thought it would be so much easier than it actually is. But it's a difficult process and it's a timely process. It takes a lot of time. It takes a lot of time to get fit. It takes a lot of consistency to get fit. That's why people aren't fit. If it only took 3 months, dude, I think a lot more people would be fit, but it doesn't take 3 months. It takes years. So I think for you to actually get to a level where you can say, okay, I'm happy with the result, to be properly like proud of yourself with your results, I think you're looking at 8 to 12 months as a complete beginner. Like 8 to 12 months. Obviously, you're going to see results after 3 months. Of course, you will. I'm not saying you won't. Even after 6 weeks, you're going to start seeing good results. But to properly look at yourself in the mirror and say, damn, man, like, okay, like I can see my efforts. I can see like my body's actually changed. I feel stronger now. I feel fitter. I feel more confident. I think 9 to 12 months is a good timeline.
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Definitely, definitely. Depends where you started off, but
Of course. Everything is relative, of course. There's people, dude, like they start off like I've seen people at the gym that have only been lifting for a year and they can lift so much more than me. And I've been lifting for 4 or 5 years, so there's a lot of factors that are at play. But generally, this is applicable for most people, I think.
we're taking some extracurriculars, I think.
Yeah, maybe, yeah, you never know.
So, okay, let's talk about pure bulk muscle building. How do you think is the best way in the gym and in your diet to really put on a lot of muscle and weight?
I mean, the equation is simple. Lift heavy, eat in a surplus, and rest good. Like it's really a simple equation.
Okay,
But then, of course, when you go a bit more in depth, there's a lot of other things to take into consideration.
okay,
But the equation is simple. Lift heavy, meaning find the program that works good for you. So based on your availability and how much time you're willing to invest, based on your gym access, are you going to be training at the gym? Are you going to be training at home? What are you going to be doing? So find a training program that works good for you. Eat good. So whatever your level is, let's say you're not skinny fat, let's say you're lean and you're ready to go into a bulk, then whatever your caloric maintenance is, let's say it's 2,500. So if you eat 2,500 calories, you're not going to gain weight, you're not going to lose weight. You want to add to that. So you want to add 3 to 500 calories to that. So you're going to be in a caloric surplus. And then finally, a very important part of the process is going to be good rest. So sleep, you have to sleep good, you have to take care of yourself, you have to rest properly, take your rest days seriously. So it's really a simple equation. Train extremely hard and extremely well, like have a good program. So if you're lifting 3 times a week, you're doing push-pull legs, for example, you want to make sure your workouts are very efficient. Choose exercises that you're comfortable in and exercises that you do well, that you let's say master in terms of technique, and do those exercises week after week after week and improve on them. So try and lift heavier every week. Try and improve your execution with time. Try and improve the amount or increase the amount of reps you're doing, increase the amount of weight you're doing. Make sure you are eating properly consistently. So always be in a caloric surplus. So let's say you start off your bulk for the first 8 weeks, you're eating 2,800 calories, so 300 calories on top of your maintenance, if your maintenance is 2,500. You do that for 8 weeks, and then all of a sudden, after 8 weeks, you put on 1.5 kgs or 2 kgs, and you see that your weight is not going up anymore. That means it's time to increase your calories again. So you were at 2,800, now all of a sudden you increase to 3,000 or 3,100, for example. So that's principle number two, always be in a caloric surplus. And principle number three is make sure you are resting good. Make sure you're sleeping well every night. Make sure that you are taking your rest days seriously. Make sure that you are not overtraining, following your program well. and just allowing your body to recover and do what it has to do to get stronger and build muscle.
Okay. And no, sounds good, sounds good. But let's say, okay, let's say you have all the time in the world, like your schedule doesn't have any restrictions. You're like, it's your main focus. Your main focus, you just want to build as much muscle as possible.
That's the dream, bro. That's the dream. You just get paid to train.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, you're like an actor, like a Hollywood actor. You've got like 6 months to get in the
Yeah.
best shape, get as big as you can, okay?
Yeah.
Then, how would you structure your plan, your meals? How would you do it? How would you go from 80 kg, 180 to 95 in 6 months?
Well, it's still the same principle, man. It really is. Like the only difference is that this person has more time. So instead of training 3 times a week, maybe they're going to train 5 times a week,
Okay,
maybe 6 times a week. It's
okay,
the same principle. Like it's a super simple equation. Train hard, lift heavy, and improve in terms of the gym. Eat in a caloric surplus and rest. Simple.
okay. And if we go into detail, let's say into the training, what's the
Yeah,
like?
so then it would be based on other factors like what your current level is, what your recovery is like, or if you recover well, if you don't recover as easily, if you need more time to rest. It depends on factors like that.
Okay,
Yeah.
okay. So how
But
would you?
but just because somebody has all the time in the world doesn't mean you're going to put them in the gym 12 times a week, you know? Like they still need to train and rest. They still need to take their rest days seriously. They still need to make sure they're sleeping well.
Okay.
And yeah,
And in terms of, okay, let's say they're a beginner, right?
yeah.
So in terms of the exercises that they're doing, the rest time, um, the amount of hours spent in the gym per session, how would you structure this?
Okay, so let's take like a practical example. Let's use the same profile. Let's call him profile number one. 80 kgs, 180 centimeters, just starting off, kind of a newbie at the gym. He has 6 days a week where he can train. He's very flexible on time. He's young, he's a student, so he has plenty of time. And he has 6 months ahead of him before summer. He wants to get in good shape. For this specific guy, how I would do it personally, I would really follow the same principle. Like, just because you have so much time and you are super motivated doesn't mean that I'm gonna put you on a crazy program. I'm gonna take what your current level is. I'm gonna make a program that is uh, that you can follow, that I'm confident you can follow, and program that won't destroy you because you're just starting off. In terms of their actual training sessions, generally I like to do like just 60 minutes. You know, I don't like personally, I don't think it's necessary to stay in the gym for an hour and a half, 2 hours every session. So just 60 minutes, 4 times a week, 5 times a week. Very efficient, like no talking, texting, all of that stuff. You're in the gym, you're timing your rest times, you're logging your lifts, your sets, your reps, how many kgs you're putting on each exercise, and just super efficient. So 60 minutes, 4 times a week, 5 times a week. And then you would adjust, you would make little adjustments as time goes by. But I would take it, I would take things on in this manner.
Okay, okay,
Yeah.
that's a good approach.
What about you?
You don't want to give the secret sauce out completely.
Secret sauce.
No, like exercises, rest
Oh,
time, like
oh, dude. No, but that's simple stuff. Like that's basic exercises. Like the difference between a Smith machine squat and a barbell squat for a beginner, it's not like, oh, if he does Smith machine, then in 3 months, if he does Smith machine and barbell, then with the Smith machine, he's gonna put on an extra 1 kg of muscle on his legs. It's I don't think it's a detail that plays that much of a that makes that much of a difference. For me, the exercise selection and all of that stuff is really just dependent on the person, on their level, what they're able to do. You know, the only thing that is important for me is that when somebody is a complete beginner, I like to start them off a lot on machines, on assisted machines. So instead of the barbell squat, where they're gonna have to learn how to do the exercise and how to go down and how to not injure themselves and stability and all of that stuff, I would just say just do the Smith machine squat. Instead of the bench press, I would just say just do like a machine press for the chest. So that's a detail that is important. But to each their own, you know. But in terms of like exercise selection, that's a detail. That's for me, that's not as important as train 4 times a week, get stronger, lift heavier, make sure you're doing proper execution, eat well, make sure you're always on a surplus, and sleep well. For me, if you follow these principles, whatever exercise selection you are doing, as long as you are doing the exercises properly, and as long as you are consistent week after week and you are improving on the exercises that you selected, then you are going to get stronger. Obviously, there are some exercises that are better than other exercises, but if you are a beginner, then this detail is not super important. Like, what's important is actually going to the gym and actually doing the work, you know?
Yeah, that's a great point, and I think that's also a great point to end the podcast on. I mean, it's well summarized what you said. You've got the three pillars that you should really stick to. It's important. Most important thing is to show up. Of course, consistency rules.
Sure.
And
Yes,
you mentioned it's training hard, it's eating well, and it's recovery. In the end, these are the three things that are really going to be the deciding factor in the progress that you make or do not make. So
absolutely.
thanks so much for all your knowledge and all the details that you shared. It was my pleasure to interview you in this podcast, and I hope we can do it again.
Yes, sir. Thank you, Marco.
I
Appreciate you.
You can give everyone your contact, your Instagram, where they can find you.
Yeah, just Fitness by Mamoon at on Instagram.
Perfect. All right, look for him there.
All right, bro.
Ciao.
Cheers.